Chapter 6 Visions of the Appleseed. A low humming sound. A strange, sing-song-like hum amidst a void of white. "Please, you have to help them," the voice would cry. "You're the only one who can delay death's touch." Then would come the scream, followed by the splattering of blood on pure white. Why was she always having that dream? The goblin awoke from her slumber, eyes heavy with the weight of the dream on her mind. For a month now, every day the same dream would occur. She didn't know what it meant, or what to do about it. All she knew, that it was the one consistent puzzle in an otherwise perfectly mundane existence. Days in the village of Witchfen were all the same. She would wake up, brew her morning cup of tea, work at her daily studies, and go about the town. Witchfen was a routine village. Every day the blacksmith would boast about her latest piece. Every day the fishermen would complain that nothing was biting. Every day the farmers would yell at each other about their animals getting into one another's fields. And every day nothing would change. Until, of course, the day it did. She grabbed her bag and made her way, as she always did, over to the library. A small building that couldn't house more than 100 books, all of which she had already read. She mostly went to say hello to the librarian, an elderly man who, while he never spoke a single word, was a source of kindness and warmth in the otherwise drab village. She walked in, the old librarian greeting her with the same warm smile he always did as he straightened out some books on the shelves, one in particular that she had never seen before. A large grimoire, brown in cover with elven runes dancing across the spine and bottom. Along the front inscribed was a large sapphire, faint in color and surrounded by gold plating. She had never seen a spellbook quite like it. "Is it new?" she asked. The old man nodded in response, grabbing the book off the shelf and putting it on the counter in front of her. She stared at it in a moment in awe. For a split second, the sapphire almost seemed to glow faintly. She shook her head at this. Likely it was just her crazy imagination. Her hand reached out to touch it, and as it made contact, she felt the book thrum to life beneath her. Extraordinary, magical, powerful. She had never felt anything quite like it before. Opening the grimoire up, she studied the pages. The text was unlike anything she had seen before. Strange runic carvings and markings that formed rough words, an ancient language of some sort. Spells were carved into the very pages, spells she had never even heard of before. She wondered what secrets a tongue like this could contain. Glancing back up at the librarian to thank him, she heard a scream in her head, shaking her of her fantasy. The same one as in the dream, she thought for only a moment, as she stared in horror at what lay before her. I will give a trigger warning right now if you're someone who does not like horror, specifically kind of body horror. Surrounding the librarian was a creature, a horrible being twisted around his body, devoid of form, as if she was staring into a pit of nothingness. The creature didn't say a word. It only hummed, the same hum she had heard in her dreams so many nights. Her eyes shut unwillingly, and in that instant, all she could see was blood. "No!" she cried, clarity suddenly coming to her. She saw the librarian, plain as he was, the same smile he always wore affixed on his face. Although now puzzled at her sudden outburst, her hand still lay on the grimoire, magic still coursing through her veins. What was that? She paused, her voice swelling in her throat. She didn't understand what had happened. Was that a vision of some kind? What she saw, that creature, she had no idea how to describe it. All she knew was that it terrified her. I'm sorry, she said. I have to go. Grabbing the grimoire and running, she fled the library, returning to her home and shutting the door firmly behind her. What the hells was going on? What was that thing she saw? Why did she think that when she opened her eyes, the librarian would be dead? She looked at the grimoire again, rapidly flipping through the pages. It started when she touched this, didn't it? But the book didn't seem cursed. In fact, it felt powerful. Ancient almost in the spells within. Please, she begged. Somehow, she thought, this book was connected to that awful being. Show me your secrets. As if commanded by her voice, the grimoire's pages turned and opened to her, the words on the page lighting up with a red flash, allowing her to understand what lay within. The grimoire spoke of a darkness, a dark and terrible being devoid of love or kindness. Only malice and anger consumed it. Only the strongest of mages could even see the beast, and only the strongest of wizards could delay its fury. But how does one kill it? She frantically turned the book, finding no answer to her question. The grimoire contained spells across dozens of schools of magic, but still no spell was strong enough to kill this dark entity. There were still too many questions. Her head spun with every anxiety it could muster. There was no getting anywhere like this. A nap. Yes, sleep would help her. She could come at this situation with a fresh mind, a renewed energy. But sleeping only made matters worse. In her sleep, she saw visions. All the people of the village, each one twisted around this demon, its teeth ready to snap and put an end to the life of each villager. The sight of it was gruesome, each death more bloody and vile than the last. The creature was insatiable. With every kill it laughed and stalked to its next victim. All the goblin could do was stare in horror at it all, until the creature locked eyes with her, and she felt her entire mind and body betray her, as she felt forcibly pulled to the being. "You can't kill what's inevitable," the creature taunted. "Death comes for all. Even you." Unhinging its horrific maw to swallow her whole, the vision went black. Waking with a scream, she jumped from her bed. Her entire body shook with fear. She couldn't have simply imagined something that horrific, could she? And to have the same hums as in her dreams? There was something wrong here. Something dark and sinister. and that paranoia would not simply waver. She had to go back. She had to return to the library. She ran out of the door, the darkness of nighttime making it difficult for her to see where she was going. She ran in the direction of the library, not even knocking on the door as she swung it open, crying and screaming when she saw the sight that lay inside. She saw the terrible monster yet again, this time wrapped around the corpse of the librarian man, his face half-eaten and melted away from corrosion. His body was drained of all life force, nearly skeletal in shape, and blood pooled on the floor, soaking him and the creature in blackened gore. The creature hummed the same tune she had heard in her dreams, turning its attention towards the young goblin. Locking eyes with her, the goblin felt her body paralyzed with fear, as if the strongest cast of hold person was placed upon her. For the first time, she saw the creature as more than formless abomination. The being was one of indescribable horror, with wretched and gnarled skeletal features and eyes devoid of soul or feeling. Its body was starved, mere bone beneath a shadowed frame where its own hunger for blood seemed to scream out at her. The creature's tongue lay sprawled from its mouth where a ghastly grin spread across, mocking, laughing, hungry. For her. The beast charged towards her with incredible speed. In an instant, she would be dead. Her body had no chance to react until she called out, "Stop!" In a flash of blue, everything froze around her. The grimoire lit up, the runes and gems inscribed within it glowing with an icy blue hue, as the monster became engulfed in a blue weave of magic. It was trapped, motionless and vulnerable to the mercy of the spell. The goblin watched in awe as the creature she had been paralyzed by moments ago felt itself paralyzed, frozen in time? She could move around the beast, watching it as it stood completely motionless, jaws unhinged and ready to attack her should the spell break. She finally understood. You can't kill what's inevitable, only delay it. She couldn't kill the creature, just delay its attack a while further. It was then everything went black. The goblin awoke from her slumber, eyes heavy with the weight of the nightmare on her mind. She found herself home, in her own bed, in her own cottage with the smell of tea brewing. Where was the monster? She looked beside her bed. The same grimoire now lay closed, the runes now muted and dulled in color. What on earth happened? A moment ago she was going to be killed. And now... The goblin looked outside. It was daytime again. Her room smelled of the same apple cinnamon tea she often brewed first thing in the morning. Had her horrors even happened? Was this the same morning as the day she had just experienced? Would she encounter that creature in the library? Was everything about her day fated to be the same? And the most important question, was the librarian okay? Running to the library, she was shocked to walk in and find him alive, bright smile on his kind and wrinkled face. She searched, desperately looking for any sign of this creature's influence, but found it was completely gone. Instead, all she heard was a chilling hum. You can't kill what's inevitable, the voice taunted. Death comes for all, even you. She clutched the grimoire tightly in her arms and felt its thrum of power inside her. Somehow, this book saved her life. Somehow, she could see a creature that wasn't really there and knew when they were going to strike others. And somehow, she could stop them. Armed with the grimoire at her side, the goblin set out on her adventure. studying the art of both divination and chronomancy. She is determined to learn the secrets of her visions, and save the lives of all she encounters wrapped up in the being's unholy grasp. Now, in the present era, people will tell unexplainable stories of their lives being saved when they thought they could have died. A sudden hand pulling you back when you're about to fall. A strange wind pulling you up when you drown. A bright light guiding you when all hope seems lost. And every now and then, someone reports a strange green figure attached to it all.